Welcome back to another SCP Those Twisted Pines reading, dear researchers. Today we'll be finishing up On the Radar by Dark Stuff. Now, without further ado. 9. Boss Man and Agent Woman talk business. The little bling noise that signified that Edgar Holman's secretary was about to tell him something over the speaker in his desk startled him out of his current habit of nodding off.
An Agent Wajima Mayumi is here to see you. Had an appointment at 8 p.m. Came early because she says she's a bit rushed. Says she apologizes for the inconvenience.
Edgar rubbed the sleep out of his eyes. He wasn't even halfway through his phone book thick sheaf of papers about a more definitive splitting of responsibilities between the Unusual Incidents Unit and the SCP Foundation in regards to 3 Portlands. Something to do with an anomalous drug and the anomalous drug dealer, conflicting interests on the part of the Foundation and the UIU. Foundation wanted to keep the drugs in SCP, UIU wanted to detain the drug dealer. One thing led to another, Foundation and UIU butted heads, and it had come down to an unbelievable amount of revisions in regards to their agreements in 3 Portlands. Turned out, nothing had quite accounted for this situation, but Site Director Holman hadn't even really been in tune with that, because at the same time, Site 64 had gotten into yet another dispute with Area 12, which Holman was paying more attention to because Area 12 was being a real jerk about this when they had already had this debate a few years back and settled it there. Site Director Holman had the suspicion that Area 12 was looking to become a much more prominent site, and had decided that Site 64 was its direct competitor. This mentality, Holman thought, was so grossly against the ideals and purposes of the Foundation well, thinking of it took up a lot of his time and kept him up, and hadn't allowed him to expend much energy on the 3 Portlands issue.
Mr. Holman.
Yes, sorry. Edgar pinched the bridge of his nose. Send her in. It was only 7:45, so she wasn't so early as to anger Holman. In fact, her sudden appearance might have saved him from suddenly going out of order on the job. Wajima Mayumi stepped into the office, extended her hand, shook Holman's hand, then laid a suitcase by her side and sat down.
Hello, Mr. Holman. I am here with concerns about Wilson's Wildlife Solutions.
Oh, dear Lord. And I'm here to listen. What concerns would those be?
Well, sir, we both know that they aren't low on funds. We make sure that they always have enough money to continue with their operations.
Right?
But we also know that they contain a number of anomalous fauna, some of which, if it were in our care, would be contained differently.
Of course.
Well, I'm here to tell you that they wish to contain differently, but don't have the means to.
Holman raised an eyebrow. Elaborate?
The technology, sir. They don't have the correct technology to successfully contain all of their specimens. As one example, they have a poison dart frog named Hyde, who can teleport, and they don't really have a good way to keep him inside. They've currently given up, and he's out in the wild somewhere.
I'm sure a search and rescue team can be sent to find him, and we can try to accommodate the frog inside 64.
That's not all. They have a cat, a tabby, that is hard to remember. I can remember due to my training, which accounts for light mimetic and anti-mimetic resistance. However, they don't have that. The tabby, I think her name is Roofy, goes days without being fed sometimes.
If she's hard to remember, perhaps you can extract her yourself. You've been an exceptional agent. If the only anomalous property of the cat is it being hard to remember, I'm sure you could simply allow it as a pet.
That's not exactly my point.
Wajima paused.
Sorry for the interruption, but the point is that all of these can be handled on a case by case basis. But together, Wilson's wildlife is starting to bite off a bit more than it can chew, and I think we have to do something about it.
What exactly should we do, Agent Mayumi?
Wajima breathed. I am not sure. I'm not a containment specialist or strategist or any of that. I'm just a field agent reporting to you what I have seen. I've already told the Nexus 17 research team, and I hope that you can appreciate my concern.
Then let the Nexus 17 team handle it. If they haven't figured something out by middle of next month, I will be able to more fully consider your concerns. Currently, however, Site 64 has bigger issues to deal with.
Holman rubbed his eyes yet again. With all due respect, sir, I don't trust the Nexus 17 research team. They have been supposed to give me a sister agent for years, and they've never gotten around to it because things are going smoothly. I have already voiced my complaints and pleaded once more for an agent to assist me, but they've been putting it off. However, they do have to go through you and Agent William Johnson. Perhaps the blame lies with you two.
Wajima surprised herself. Edgar's expression remained stone.
All I am saying is that I think we will greatly regret not handling this issue further. And I have been unable to get the assistance I need from the usual sources, so I am coming to you. Please consider it.
Holman ran his hand across his forehead. All right. If you want to write up a formal report on your concerns and bring that in, I can take that to the board of directors. But it won't happen this month. I can tell you that right off. Wajima fought the urge to glare. And trust me when I say this is not because I'm putting it off. We are simply too busy at the moment. Seeing Wajima about to open her mouth, another territory dispute with Area 12. And then some things not within your clearance to know. But I can't consider this without the proper paperwork. You can get the forms from my secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Holman, sir. I'll get those into you within the week.
As Wajima was standing up. Don't feel too rushed about it. As I said, likely won't happen for another month. Perhaps taking more time will allow you to more thoroughly examine and report on the situation. Take care.
Have a good day, Site Director Holman, sir.
Holman raised his hand in a pitiable, tired goodbye gesture, which Wajima didn't have time to notice as she exited. Well, that did nothing, Holman thought to himself. Nothing but put more work on my plate. Edgar sighed. What he really needed right now were some caffeine pills, not more work. 10. The other shoe drops. Around an oval table in a dull, obsidian black padded meeting room sat in clockwise order Site Director Edgar Holman, Assistant Site Director Dr. Sarah O'Connell, Assistant Director of Personnel Cameron Miles, Assistant Director of Facilities Dr. Melina Lopez, Assistant Director of Research Dr. Avery Sanchez, Assistant Director of Containment Sophie Turner, and Assistant Director of Task Forces Agent William Johnson. To anyone who was familiar, it would be obvious it was, once again, the board of directors doing their weekly Sunday meeting. Except, wait, no. This was a Tuesday, and it was an emergency meeting, called by Edgar Holman without advanced warning. Everyone had just arrived, and people were in various states of annoyed, confused, worried, and so on. What could be so important? Site Director Holman stood and waited in silence. Thank you all for getting here with such short notice, Edgar began, once the muttering went down. I am deeply sorry for the inconvenience. If you were in the middle of your own emergency situation, you may of course return to it, but you all know that. Grateful that you all showed up. Now let me not mince words. It's about Nexus 17.
Edgar swallowed,
It's about Wilson Wildlife Solutions.
thinking this must be some kind of joke or not worth their time. Several members of the board groaned, sighed, or otherwise expressed exasperation. Indeed, there seemed to be a lot more important things going on. Holman made note of those who did not show such disrespect. Those were the people who trusted his judgment more. Good to know. For later on.
No, I know it sounds ridiculous, but if it weren't for the unusual incidents unit cleaning up after cleaning up after us, then Wilson's Wildlife Solutions would have made national news. No, international news, seeing as we live in the age of the internet. All news is international news. And that's just what happened. We were one day of non-interference away from a global disinformation campaign.
The room stood still.
Right, so, details. We're still figuring it out. The short of it, though, is that Wilson's found a polar bear that was anti-entropy.
Someone near the back. A polar bear? In Oregon?
Yes, a polar bear in Oregon. They've found seals in the river, jungle frogs in the trees. We are past questioning how they all got there. It's a nexus, for heaven's sake. But yes, a polar bear. Anti-entropy. Now, maybe a physicist in the room could tell us why that would be a really, really bad thing.
The room paused.
That's right. We don't really know. Not until we get someone qualified on the line. And we only became aware of this a little bit ago. We didn't even hear of this until the UIU hit us up and asked, "Where are you?" I am sure you must all see how embarrassing that is. Apparently, long story short, the Ursus Maritimus incident has caused the deaths of the owner and employee of a storage company, the freezing of half of Boring, including City Hall, and the deaths of 2 UIU agents. The bear kept absorbing heat until it was too bright to look at, and then they decided they had to shoot it, which blew it up, and that hit part of Wilson Wildlife's headquarters, neutralizing 3 of their anomalies, one of which was their mascot, Copper, and grievously injuring a volunteer there, someone by the name of Sarah Gardner. That was a nuclear bomb waiting to happen. Wilsons interfered by trying to herd it towards their own premises, for who knows what reason. How they could possibly have assumed they had the ability to contain that is beyond me, but no one can say they didn't try. 2 folks of theirs got pneumonia because of it. Now, of course, we have no clue where this polar bear came from, how it hadn't been noticed before, when its anomalous properties manifested, etc. But god damn it, we're supposed to be on top of this, and we had to outsource to the UIU before we even learned of this. Apparently, Agent Wajima Moyumi was too busy trying to run interference that she couldn't reach us. Would have helped to have, say, another agent with her.
Edgar cast a masked glare at William Johnson.
And you know what? As a gift from us to the UIU for covering our tracks, we're going to give them the drugs from 3 Portland's executive order.
3 people looked just about to burst with things to say. Angry, sad, regretful, sarcastic, unhelpful things. And Holman had to make it clear that there would be no discussion by sharply waving his hand over the table.
Now I know I have sounded angry, but it is my fault as well, if not most entirely. I would like to, right now, take the blame for the unfortunate incident with Wilson's Wildlife. There were things outside of my control, of course, but there were things within my control as well, which I had ignored in place of bigger projects. Area 12. Anderson, Portland, to name a few. Wilson's simply escaped me, as I am sure it escaped most of us. But now it is clear we cannot be merely an influence on them. We can't run this from behind the scenes. If we are to make this work, we are going to have to directly interfere with their doings. I, can hold off no longer. So, because we simply don't have time to fully discuss this, these are my orders. Should you find them to be against Foundation policy, you can take it up with the O5 Council after all is said and done. Clear?
Some grumbling, both positive and negative affirmations.
Good. Agent William Johnson, you will compose a task force for further interactions with Nexus 17, assuming you have Beta 4 still reserved from forever ago. You are free to use that one. Cameron Miles, you are to gather a diplomatic team from the on-site staff. This should include heads of the Nexus 17 research team, 1 or 2 agents for intimidation and immediate status. And Sophie Turner, your diplomatic team will meet with the UIU agents currently occupying the Wilson's Wildlife headquarters, as well as, hopefully, some Wilson Wildlife employees. After that point, await further instructions. Everyone who I did not give a job may stay here and can discuss what precisely to do with Wilson's Wildlife Solutions. Is that all clear?
The room nodded, and those appointed were dismissed. William, Cameron, and Sophia all dispersed, leaving an almost halved board of directors. As soon as the doors closed behind the last one out, Edgar Holman sat down in his chair.
All right. Now, what are we to do?
The room burst into discussion, calling into question their resources at hand, their intentions, their finances, their current projects, how a closer eye on Wilson's Wildlife would tax their time and energy. The debate was heated, but professional. The views controversial, but none idiotic. The more they discussed, the more one thing became clear. Wilson's Wildlife Solutions was by no means getting destroyed. On the contrary, it was going to be used. With more direct involvement, the Foundation could both ensure that they did their job correctly and use their connections with the public to alleviate costs and give a convenient venue for connections with the anomalous community. Yes, if the Foundation played their cards right, Wilson's Wildlife could be more than a passive help, but well and truly beneficial day to day. A tool. Of course, they had seen what had happened to Wilson's while they let them do their own thing. There would have to be strict restrictions on the group, and perhaps the task force that William would organize could help directly oversee their actions. Indeed, it sounded like a good decision on paper. After hours of debating, at last they came to a conclusion, and after days of diplomacy and interactions, the SCP Foundation and Wilson's Wildlife Solutions came to an agreement. And that's where we'll end it here for today, dear researchers. We'll be back next week with the next part, but that is the end of On the Radar, at least. Good luck out there. I hope to see you all next time, and let's hope that Wilson's Wildlife isn't changed too much.